Hi guys, it's ShishKebabber1 coming right back at you with another Boom Beach video. Today's video, guys, we're back on the ship. We're back on the SS Pound Town, but we look a little bit different. Look at that, guys. We're done. We hit Legendary 10, that's right. It's amazing. You can see it right up here. Legendary 10, guys. And there's a reason for that, and there's also a reason why we are stopping. Let me trash all that junk. So basically, it was all getting into the concept of effective tech earlier, and we were all in a very big stat race here. As soon as, let's go to the tech tree, turn off my stupid drawing tool. Here we go. As soon as everybody was able to get into the final tier of the tech trees, actually the final two, there was just tons and tons of offensive stats. You had some down here. You had troop health and troop damage, but then when you get to the final tier, it gets nuts, guys. Now, it takes a little bit of keys to unlock these things. 150 for these nodes over here on the left, and then 200 for all these in the center, and then finally 300 for these guys on the far end. Season's about to get totally nuts. And anyway, it was all just a big race to see who could get the most stats the fastest, to see who could clear the bases first, okay? And that's basically the route I took. I went for stats. I did not get the grappler, although if I wanted to play, I could. You see, we're sitting on 404 chests. That just rolled over recently, too. This is the first time all season I've seen that on this account. But we're done. And we're done because what's happening is, as the offense to defense ratio increases, the amount of skill required decreases. And that's just a fact. Like, think of it like this. It's like where we were in the balance of offense and defense at the beginning, and, well, more like in the middle of the season, but now we're entering, like, the late season. Let's say by the mid of the season, we had a pretty good mix of offense and defense, and it took some skill. Some of these were smoky hits or whatever, or just very tactical clears, well, except for the grinds, but some of that still took skill. That's not the point. The point is, it would be equivalent to battling at like 1,500 or something in that range on the old VP leaderboard back on our home base. You know, that was very skillful play, well thought out. You got to think about base design and all this kind of stuff. It's very important, very intriguing, okay? And a lot of things matter. But when you increase the ratio of offense to defense like they have now, this is more analogous to clearing your map at, say, the 600 VP range. Because there's no ice. Nobody has ice. Nobody really cares about layout design. And it's just a matter of steamrolling your enemies and just doing it as fast as you can to farm intel for your task force or something kind of thing. That's what I see Warships has turned into in the final part of the season with the strong offensive meta. And as a part, I don't want to take part in that. Like, I mean, it's not that I don't want to take part in it, but I don't want to risk losing my rank if I were to take part in that. Because it becomes less, there's really less of a definition between players, like what makes one player better than another. Well, early in the season, it was tech and skill, but tech first because of the real great tech advantages that occurred that we talked about, riding the elevator and all that. You guys know, when you fight an over-teched opponent, they can be just not even that good, and they've got such a huge advantage, they'll probably send you to Pound Town. But then if you are at even tech, obviously, or comparable tech, then obviously skill factors in there too, and that's another way to set yourself apart from the competition. But now when effective tech has more or less become equal here at the end of the season, and it will be by the end of the season, at least at the top. And then when your skill quotient goes down because it's just a base race, essentially, that's just not a competition I want to be a part of. And it's one that I feel like it's almost like tossing a coin, and it's going to be 50-50. So that just means that you have to, I don't know, you just have to get lucky, and you have to catch little win streaks in between the natural distribution of your 50-50 coin toss, and those little win streaks will contribute to stars that'll help you climb up in the end. But it's going to be a huge grind, and I do not want to slip out of port, guys. Anyway, that being said, here's my victory log. These are the last fights on the USS Pound Town. We'll highlight a couple of these. I can't do any live matches because I don't have a defense set up, guys, and you can't save defensive layouts yet. I'm sure that'll come. There was ABR. That was a fun one. I wasn't able to clear too well on the Pound Town, but he messed up his hit, so it worked out for me. Here's a good one. Here's a clear. I was running TG. I was running a 2-6 tank Gren with Bullet and the energy drink. Bullet was at rank 4. Tanks and Grens were maxed. And I think I was around, let's just say 130% troop damage and troop health at this time with 90% GBE, I think. Anyway, let's just double time this. Now this guy, not the best layout. He had two protos up in front. I mean, you just get rid of them, boom, just like that, they're dead. I find this to be a very strong, reliable layout, especially for me because I'm as a crabber and stuff. I'm obviously used to like TGM. We didn't pick medics for two reasons. One, they're just rank 1. We didn't want to waste any upgrade tokens for them. And at rank 1, they've got very low health, so they can die. But the other reason is, and it's just the more important reason, we just bring more damage to the field. Like, we don't really need the medics. As long as Bullet's alive, things are hitting him and things die. Oh yeah, this is when I figured out that you definitely need to have max BART if you're going to try to BART out an engine room. I stored up a lot of the GBE from killing those first 6 engine rooms. And then we tried to BART that engine room out, and I forgot about that. And then we had to like make our way over there. Actually, it's a pretty cool play. I remember we take out the mine, and then we flare it like between that boom mine. Yeah, here we go. Then the critters come off, distract the sniper tower, flare the engine room, boom, just like that. He goes down to Pound Town. Let's see if I can find another one of these in the log. It depended. So the deal was this: like at the end of the tree. Let's explain that real quick. I had a choice of either going to the grappler, which is 300, or I could just start unlocking more offensive nodes, okay? And I realized the technological edge, the effective tech, is to go for the stats. At least at the time I had this choice. And because what's the point of getting a grappler to defend against attacks that aren't really attacking you yet? I was right there at the transition of rush to clear style attacks. So I figured, let's go ahead and rush, because anybody that took the time to go get 300 unlock keys for the grappler means they didn't have the time to go back for this for these stats back here. So that means if we're so I rush anytime there's a grappler, all right. So that means anytime I rush them though, and they're going to be rushing me, I have more stats on my troops when I do my rush, so I'm more likely to win. So that's what was happening on some of these. I think this was probably a rush, huh? Oh no grapplers. This was just a busted clear. Well, I don't want to show you this if it was just a busted clear. Although maybe it was a rush. I know I got some better ones. I want to yeah. Oh, this one we won by time. Oh, that's the other thing to say though, guys. I don't think that TG is the final meta. I think the final meta, because it'll get down to like a base race, it's going to be something like CHZ, I should say. Sorry, Cryo Heavy Zuka, or Cheese with Kavan and Second Wind at rank 6. Or at level 6. He just needs to be rank 4. The heck was I doing? I guess I grened this guy with Kavan. Which was an interesting choice here because... Oh, no, this was the other guy. This is him on my base. Oh, I don't even know what I'm watching, guys. I was like, what the... I guess I grened him with Kavan. No, I didn't. Well, that's why he took too long. But no, I was talking about CHZ, guys. That is the final meta. And... yeah, this is more like it. That is the final meta, because it's going to be the fastest one. Some people still might claim RZCM could be the final meta, but either way, we're waiting on the Zukas. Whether you use your riflemen or you use heavies, I don't see the difference. So I feel like Cheese has shown its like versatility in both seasons of Warships, in fact. So it's like so far Cheese has already been pretty strong. So I feel like that's where to go. If you're gonna stay all the way to the end of the season, put your money in on Cheese, guys. Sorry, I should have sped that up. Because that's the final meta as I see it. What'll counter grapplers later is when people max out their barrage and artillery. You can get back the full clears, I think. Maybe you can do it before that, but with a max barrage and max artillery, it'll only take 50 GBE to BART out one grappler with 100% building health. So that won't cost you that much GBE, not when you're 200, 200, 200, especially. And then you can just probably lock down the other grappler or find other ways to deal with it. Dealing with 2 grapplers can be an issue. Dealing with 1 is quite manageable. So I think that's it. And once that happens, that's when it's the full-on base race, and that's when Cheese wins that race. But we'll find out, and I'll stay tuned for it. I'm curious to see how the final meta pans out, but that's my prediction is Cheese. So there you go. You can see we just took that guy straight onto Pound Town. Wasn't even zooming in for you. But, yeah. Can't really show you any live plays today. Let's look for one of these rushes, though. Oh, that's another good clear hit, huh? But like I said, I was encountering some people that had grapplers. Let's see. Maybe this guy. Did he have grapplers? Yes, he did. So obviously when we had grapplers, like I said, we would just run the HWB, Heavy, Warrior, and Bullet. So it looks like for this, I'm setting up on an approach down the far side, using critters to pop some more of these shock mines. We got grappler range here and here. We got 3 shocks to worry about. We see the microwavers are just touching all sorts of junk. If we're coming in on the far side, that means we definitely are going to be shocking that left microwaver and cycling it. Here we go. We do an extended delay drop on the heavies. Let's speed that up. Simply because I know they're going to be running over 2 shock mines. So I time my delay based on how many shock mines they're going to be doing. There's 1 shock mine. There's 2 shock mines. And now we're off to the races. Pre-smoking with my rank, what are these, 3 smokes, and shocking as my troops come by. Bullets way on the outside, getting ping-ponged a little bit, but we keep cycling that shock on the microwaver, and our warriors that have a bunch of stats, they're just going to town, tearing junk up while Bullet keeps the rest of the defenses distracted. And we got to win. So we were doing that, and like I said, you can see we sailed into a Legendary 10 on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 win streak, so gotta love those win streaks, guys. Also gotta hope they get rid of those in the next season, because it just makes the rank progression so much more fast. I guess I should mention real quick why my ship looks this way. Obviously, since I'm done, you can just, the true final meta, guys, is ship decorating. So yeah, when you're done, when you decide to park your warship, take the opportunity to put a nice little message on it for everyone to see. In this case, we've got the word swap written out. Swap, of course, being my task force. You can see that right there, guys, right? S, W, A, and P. That's right, ship with a plan. So that's what I decided to do on mine, and also you can tell on the Canadian leaderboard, if it'll load up here momentarily, we will see. Come on. Why are we down here? I have no idea. I've been spying on people earlier. No, I was getting some leaderboard data earlier is what I was doing. Here we go. So right now, in Canada, we've only got 2 legendary extras. We've also got our good friend Nasty right over here. Wrong button. Let's visit his warship. Oh my goodness, what do we got here? It says swap. That's right, guys. Swap taking Canada, at least for now. We just had to give a big shout out as always, and hopping right back. Now guys, it's fun time. Let's talk about some charts, and I also need data from you guys. Please let me know in the video, in the comments, what your stars are, what your current tech level is, and how many engine rooms you have. And whether or not you got instant training or not. We're going to be tracking all sorts of junk here. So let me know about your stars. Let me know about your tech. Let me know about whether or not you have instant training. And please tell me how many engine rooms you have. I'm trying to collect 4 data points this time. That's 4, like this. And if we can do that, I'll put together a really nice chart that maps all of that junk out. But today, guys, very quickly, we will go over these charts. I'm not really sure where to put my face. We'll go down here. So this is the most recent stars versus rank chart that I've produced. You can see the different dates over here on the left-hand side. We can get rid of that. We've got the legend right over here. So you can see the different colors correspond to different days. And we can see the progression of stars over time, okay, in the global top 500. Now, this is all part of the reason I'm also stopping because it's just things are just getting more intense. There's more star growth. There's more people coming behind. There's going to be a lot more competition, a lot more hungry animals, and as we can also see, the trash that. I think I can zoom in now. Well, helps if I'm on the right mode. At the top here, where we've got Legendary X, we can see the growth over time. And you can see in the first data sampling, we had these many players. Then in the next data sampling, it extended all the way out here. And then it went out to here on the blue dots, and then all the way out to here on the yellow dots. And now with the red dots, we're all the way out here, okay? There's a certain growth rate associated with that, and there's also kind of a limit to how many we can support in a season. So it's also important to get in there while you can. There are only a certain number of parking spots, guys, and let me explain what I mean by that. Let's see. Trash all this junk. Get back to my normal screen. Zoom out. Okay, so there's only a certain amount of parking spots available. We have about 12 days right now. Let's look at two things to predict this number. Now, first of all, we see that we've got this average growth per day of 1.91 stars. What you need to keep in mind, and what my other charts show, is that a lot of these people up here, myself included, have decided to park. Well, not only that, but that doesn't even matter. In fact, what matters is the fact that we're already at 268 stars, so we're not making any more stars. So obviously, as more people get to Legendary 10, this rate goes down when I'm viewing just the top 500 players. I can tell you from Canadian leaderboard data and even from Season 1 data, it's been pretty consistent. This number is about 3. It's about 3 per day, all right, overall. It's just the top of this chart's really weighing it down because we're not growing in stars, we're growing in number. So the point is we're getting about 3 per day. We've got 12 days, guys. So what does that mean? That means 36 stars, okay? So 36 stars, well, 268 is this line that you see up here. This is 268, where Legendary 10 is. So if we only got 36 stars, let's just call it 38, make our numbers easy. That means you've got to have 230 stars or more to potentially get in here. That puts you out somewhere around, let's just be generous, somewhere around 150. Okay, you see that? That means there's 150 positions available based on the average star growth rate per day. But that's not necessarily how it works, but that's just one way to get an estimate, all right? Let's go with another way. That's not what I want to do. That's what I want to do. Okay, here's another way to look at it. You'll see that, let's see, how can we do this? Let's look at the most recent trends, okay? You'll see that right over here, we've got the June 8th and June 11th dots that are here, and they're roughly 3 days apart. They're actually 3 days and 8 hours, but just forget about the 8 hours. Don't worry, I don't forget about it when I do the averaging, but just consider them 3 days apart. Wrong thing here. Such a great video maker, I know, guys. Now, here we go. Let's zoom way in. What we can see is a growth in legendary rate. We can measure it, actually we can measure it many ways, but let's just start with this one. Let's say that 3 days ago we had that many legendaries, which corresponds to 45. Whoops, that's 45. And then today we had, I don't know, what is this, 55? Yeah, that's 55. It's too close to the top of my screen, guys, but that's 55. Here we go. We had 55 stars. That's 10 stars over, I'm sorry, that's 10 new people over 3 days. Okay. And again, this is rough because, we've also got people that are floating down here, and like, I'm only taking data every 5 points. It's pretty variable. All right. There's already enough low resolution in the data to not be very accurate in these calculations, but let's just go with it. I want you to see where the trends are pointing. That's 10 over the last 3 days. And we've got 12 days, okay? So that's 4 more sets of that 10, guys. That's 40 more positions. So with that calculation, the picture gets even more grim. That puts it out to just, say, around 100. So I would estimate we've only got between 100 and 150 parking spots available. So you better get there. You better get there. So if you're not in this part of the chart, and maybe I'm wrong, but if you're not at least in this part of the chart right now, which means you have 225 stars, it's going to be really tough. You need to make some moves now while you can to try to make sure you can get up there by the end of the season, if you're looking for that. I guess that's the thing to say about that, and I said a lot more on that chart than I was planning to say, but there you go. Let's move right along, shall we? The next one of my favorites, as always. Figuring out where to stick my face. Yeah, I think this works. One of my favorites, as always, guys, right over here is Tech versus Stars. And as you see, the usual rates, everything's just increasing with time. We get more and more, everybody gets more and more tech. Tech level continues to rise. Average tech goes up. And we also see inflation of stars going this way, because these are data points from the top 500. So you can see originally Top 500 players encompassed all the way down to, that was ranked 21. That was all the way down to rank 21. And now, today, guys, I couldn't even tell you. This is Legendary 2, I think. Right around 180 stars. So, all of that distance from here to here in the first half of the season, just that's the inflation of stars and the compression of stars. But we know all that's there. It's still there, and we know why it's there. It's a lot of it's from artificial stars, from win streaks in the first star daily bonus. Yeah. So again, it just we know that the pack is coming. Like back in the early days, early part of the season, things were much more spread out. Okay, and we had a pretty big diversity in tech level also, which also led to some of the big imbalances we had early on that we talked about. But what it meant was wherever you were in your relative range, things were pretty good. Like if you were right here, there weren't a lot of opponents around you, and things were comfortable, especially if the set of opponents that were near you were ones that you could dominate and move through. It wasn't too hard to just, kind of claw your way over a couple of heads. But now, if you're that same person, there's a lot more competition. Whoops. Yeah. So now there's just a lot more people around you than there were before, like more tightly packed. That reminds me of another thing. I've got to talk about another phenomenon. It's another reason why we didn't want to stay. We're back to this chart, guys. We can't get off of it quite yet. Back on the stars versus rank chart, one more thing I want to talk about is the effect of matchmaking and queue time on the growth of the number of Legendary X players. As more players decide to park, queue times become longer and longer. Why? Let's illustrate that point. Let's assume that at the maximum delta, the matchmaking delta in the queue is about 40. 40 stars. What this means is someone in the high level of the queue. Let's say you're someone with 225 stars right here. What this means is that when you're in the queue and you've waited the maximum amount of time, there's a total limit of, hypothetically, let's say 40 stars above and below you of people that are eligible in the queue. So if you're at 225, that means people all the way down at 185, which is a dot right here, and that means people all the way up at 265, which is virtually Legendary 10. Legendary 10 is 268. Okay, that means that all these people, and we have to draw this out, all these people from here up to about here, you can queue with. All right, and that puts it, can I do over my face? Doesn't go over my face. That puts the total range of players at, I don't know, 250 or so. Okay, let's just say that's 250 players. I'm just looking at the numbers between basically 100 and 350, and that means you've got 250 players that you can queue with. All right, and a lot more of them are behind you than in front of you. Okay, so that's also why. How do I go back on these steps a little bit? Actually, I guess I want all of those. So you can see that region in the back there. We'll just change colors. You can see how if the player position is right here, he's only got 50, maybe 60 players in front of him that he can queue up with, and then he's got 200 or so behind him. All right, that's what leads to some of this vertical climb, this angle that you see right here. That's why you've got that. Okay, it's because of how the queue works, I think. And but let's examine the profile of another player. Let's just trash all of that. Let's go back to green. Okay, that's the player at 225, right? Now, and they had, what did we say, about 250 players or so, and most of them were behind them. Let's look at the player that has 250 stars. Okay, that would put the player right about here. All right, let's do the same thing again. 40 below puts them at 210, so that's like right here. And again, I don't know if 40 is correct, but I think it's somewhere in that range. And then 40 above is 290, but obviously that just caps out at 268, okay? So we know automatically that's gonna go all the way from position 1 or position 0 on the chart. And then this one, 210, comes all the way out to 200. All right. So, first of all, you see the person right here, just 25 stars higher. They already have less people in their pool. Okay, they've only got 200 compared to the 250 that the other player had. However, something else really bad is happening now too. Inside of that pool, guys, we've got at least 60 of those players that are Legendary X. And I will tell you the overall trend, I think, is that most will be parking or parking very soon. If not, let's just say 50 of those players have parked. So now this 200 number has already gone down to 150. You've got only 150 people eligible to queue with, all right? And again, though, looking at ratios, you've got roughly, and this is where it gets a little weird, but you've got still 100 people on this side of you, and I guess by default, that would put about 50 on this side of you, okay, if you're just following our numbers. So it starts to get a little bit, like, it starts to slow down, basically, is the point. Now, you still got that momentum, you've still got some slope, but it just starts to slow down because there's less people available. And that's assuming people are online, right? But the less total people that are just even eligible based on your rank range is already smaller. And that gap between how many behind you and in front of you has already reduced. So things get harder and they slow down. And as those ranks grow, as Legendary 10 players grow, more and more people will park, and it becomes slightly harder and harder, I think, for the next player to come. The only force that can counteract that is, of course, the inflation of stars. And that's like, the more these data points move up, this is the inflation rate right here. At least over the last 3 days, you can see the inflation rate at the different ranks. If these local inflation rates can rise due to more activity, that'll put more people within that spectrum, and that'll keep queue times low, which means they can keep playing the matches they need to get their stars from winning and from win streaks. But we might have an issue with queue times affecting how many people can also get into the park. That was the whole concept of parking. I probably killed it, but I'm really trying to get you guys to understand why it made sense for me to park, because honestly, I did not want to do it. I wanted to keep delivering content on Shishk, and I wanted to explore the whole season's meta, but at the same time, I don't want to jack myself up for the next season. I want to make sure I start off having finished in Legendary 10, because I'm assuming they're still going to start us off based on a reduced how can I say this? Like they give us a percentage of our stars back, right? So for all those that got to 268, this season we got 40% of those stars back. 40% times 268 was what we started at. Next season, I'm hoping they reduce that a bit. I'm hoping they put it at like 30% or something. But still, it helps to get the most stars possible to finish as high as you can. And I'm already there, so we didn't want to mess that up. Because let me show you what happens when you do. I think we spotted a guy in trouble on this chart. Tech versus stars. We're back over here, guys. And I don't want to make this too long. See this dude right here? I think, well, I know who this is. I looked him up. He was Global 80 when I did this. But he already reached Legendary 10 this season. I think maybe he came out to farm a chest or something, but he didn't realize what the waters were like he was getting into. And I really hope this player parks. I hope you don't try to win, because you're not getting back in, sir. You are underwater. Because if you see the basic trend of the Tech versus Stars chart is like this. When you are a data point way down here, you're underwater, dude. And you're only going to go one direction. That way. So, feel kind of bad for you, sir. But this is also why I do not want to get out of that. Now, I'm up here right around the 3,000 tech line. I'm right where I should be. Again, these numbers get variable because of the bugs from changing prototypes and whatnot. But I don't want to end up like this guy. I really don't. I really don't want to be this guy right here. And that's why I'm parking. Simple as that. And moving right along. This last one, again, not a lot to see on this. It's always kind of crazy, but I thought I'd throw it in there anyway. The battles versus rank. You see average battles per day, they're dropping. That's the other thing I should have mentioned on this chart. Average tech per day is also dropping. This number is normally about 90, but it's still not too far off. So that still shows some activity of Legendary 10 players, but you can tell just from the red glow. I know we're back on this chart again. Just from the red glow that surrounds a lot of these things, like there's red glow down here. These are all players that have parked, even in this range. Any red that's from here and down has pretty much parked. So there's more and more people parking, and I suspect that all these up here, for the most part, will eventually park too. Yeah. So I'm parking as well. It just makes sense. When you take the skill level out of it, there's nothing that gives us an edge, and it becomes a big grind fest. And why would I want to grind when I'm already there? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. And as you can see, just basically on this chart, battles versus rank, average battles per day, 36.76. This has actually increased since the last time I took this number. The last time I took this number was between the dates of the 8th of June and the 3rd of June, and now I'm measuring between the 11th of June and the 8th of June. This went up by about 9 battles per day. I'm actually kind of shocked, but what this means is that tidal wave's coming. We've got a bunch of hungry animals, even with the people that have parked and they're not battling anymore. That means that tidal wave of hungry dogs that weren't as fortunate, they didn't get on the front of that rubber band that we got on at the beginning of the season, or that elevator. They really worked hard to get to where they are in the season, and they're not going to stop. They've got that finish line in their sights, and they're coming, and I can hear it. That's why we've just gone to port. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. And I would normally do some attacks, but I can't do any live attacks for you. So I guess we'll just wrap it up right there. So thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, if you've made it this far in the video, you must like the content, so please subscribe. And remember, guys, as always, be kind to others, because if you're not, you're just being mean, and mean people suck. Have a great day.